So the worm is kind of an interesting problem. What you need to do is get 15 circles across the screen, with the first circle here in the first position, the second circle here in this position, and so on. And the way we're going to do it is we need to first determine the radius of each circle, because that's what the circle function, or how, when you create an object of type circle, that's what you require to give it, is the radius. So how do you determine the radius of the circle? Well, what you need to do is get width by 15, and that gives you the diameter of all the circles. And then you divide that number by 2 in order to get the radius of each circle. Right? So let that sink in, figure that out, make sure that makes sense. And so that's what I'm going to do right here. So I'm going to go to exercises, docs, circles. I'm going to take all this code here, and then I think it's just all I need. And then I got these guys going. For my radius, I'm going to make a new radius variable, and I'm going to make it equal to get width divided by 2 divided by 2. Oh no, I'm sorry. Divided by num circles divided by 2. Right, I think that's going to work. So we run here, we run code. Oh, I forgot. I need to add the circle at the end, right? So add circle. So let me run that. Okay, here's my circle, but it's way too big. So what do I need to do with this? Oh, it's not divided by 2, it's times 2, right? So let's go ahead and rerun the code. Oh, I'm sorry. I need to, instead of this 50, I need to put the variable radius in that I just calculated. Oh, and I think it is divided by 2, so let's do that. Okay, great. So we have the circle, these are the right size. Now we need to put them in the right location. And so this set position puts them in the right location, right? And so if you notice on the exercise, the y position in terms of get height is get height divided by 2. Right? So let me come over here and do this, get height divided by 2, and if we run it, you can see now the red circle's in the middle of the page, exactly where we want him. We want to place him right here, right? And so this might be a little bit confusing, but since on the x position this is a 0, to move him here, we need to move it radius, right? So like 0, and then this is radius right here. So then let's come back over here and let's move it to radius, and we'll run it, and we get that, right? But now you want to make more circles, 15 all across the screen. So since we know exactly how many iterations of a loop that we want to execute, we use a for loop, right? For loops are easier than while loops, so that's the go-to move. We do less than, and we don't want to put the number 15, we want to put the variable num circles in there. We say I++. I'm going to drop all of this code that makes the circle inside of the brackets. And so now if I run the code, it makes 15 circles, right, because it executes this 15 times, but it doesn't change the x position. So there's 15 circles all on top of each other. So we want this x position to change on each iteration of the loop, right? The first iteration, we want it to be radius. The second iteration, we want it to be 3 radius, right? So 3 radius would be 1 radius, 2 radius, 3 radius, and it draws the circle. The next iteration, we would want it to be 5 radius, and 7 radius, and then 9 radius. So what's the pattern there? Well, the radius needs to plus equal 2 radius, 2 times radius, right? So because first it's going to be equal to radius, then it's going to be equal to 3r, then it's going to go 5r, then 7r, then 9r. Right? So we need to add 2 radius on each iteration. So we're going to make a new variable here called var xpos. And we're going to set xpos to the initial x position of the first circle. Guys, the volume is too high, thank you. So that we're going to set the x position to the x position of the first circle on the screen. That's at radius. And we're going to change this x position to radius, right? But after we add the circle, we need to increment the radius variable. So there's many ways we could do it, but one that's, kind of simple is just plus equals. And plus equals what? 2 times radius, right? And what is that? That's the shortcut to just writing radius is equal to radius plus 2 times radius. And so how does this work? Well, the first iteration of the loop, the radius is going to be equal to, I don't know, some number, right? The radius of the circle. And then Oh no, no, no. This is not going to be radius here. This is going to be x plus. Okay. And this is not going to be radius here. This is going to also be x plus. So the first iteration of the loop, the position of the first circle is going to be radius, right? Because that's what x plus is equal to. And then the next iteration, then we get to this line here after we've added the circle. And this adds 2 radius to the current x position, which is at radius. So now x plus is equal to 3 radius. And then we put the next circle at 3 radius. And then we increment by 2 radius. That turns x plus to 5 radius. And we place it at 5 radius. And so on and so forth, right? So let me run the code and plus equals. Okay, so I guess they don't like that. I guess we need to do it the long way. It's equal to x plus 2 radius. So I run that. Where's plus equal? Oh, this is what they don't like down at the bottom. So let me change that back to plus equals 2 radius. Run the code, and this is what we get, right? And then an interesting note is if we come up here and change num circles to 1, we get that, right? If we change num circles to 19, we get that, right? And why? Because the radius is calculated dynamically according to the value of num circles. And then we iterate the for loop according to the value of num circles. So whatever number I put here, you're going to have the exact number of circles that are going to fit across the screen, and then they're going to be the right size, and there's going to be the right number of those circles. So hopefully that clears up the worm exercise.